Yo, yo, yo. Hey guys, welcome back to another amazing edition of the Best Practices Show podcast. As a dentist, you have to stop and reflect every year to say, am I on track or am I off track? And your question might be, like, what questions should I ask? Well, today I have an amazing coach on. Her name is Heather Crockett. And she gives you the 4 very specific questions to guide your year-end review. Please listen to this and please use them so that you create an even better practice and better life next year. So please listen up. Hope you guys enjoy this, and we'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show podcast. You know the GM. Our job is to bring you some great information from great thinkers, great teachers, amazing coaches to help you improve your practice and your life. And a big part of improving your practice and your life is you got to hit the pause button every once in a while. And this is a perfect time to do this. Hit the pause button and say, how did we do? And from there, make adjustments, have some countermeasures to your plan, because there's nothing better when a plan comes together, and there's nothing worse when a plan doesn't happen. So we have an amazing coach today. Her name is Heather Crockett, and she's going to give us 4 questions to guide this conversation you have with your end year review. Heather, thanks for being here. I appreciate you as always.
Thank you for having me again, Kirk. It's so fun to be back.
Yeah, it's so fun to be back. Now, this is going to be an awesome one because this is an important piece of what we do. And you as a dentist, if you're listening, you have to do this, And if you're not familiar with what we do, because people still ask me, what do you do? We're practice coaches. We coach some of the best practices anywhere in the country. Now, these practices aren't necessarily broken. Some of them are super high performing, but they hit these ceilings. And they ask us to hold them accountable, get them organized, to break these ceilings so that they can spend their time doing what they do best. And reflection is an important one. Heather, give us some perspective on this. Why is this so important?
It's so important because it's a great practice to, like you said, pause and think about how far you've come, where there were some potential missed opportunities, and now what our future looks like. What do we need to hit the go button on? What is it that we didn't accomplish that we really wanted to? How do we reframe our mindset to get those things done and to accomplish those things that we want to do? Also to just take a moment to celebrate because we've made some progress. It's really important to go beyond production and collection because there's so many different things that play into our practice and the success of our practice than just those 2 numbers.
Yeah, you said one of my favorite words. You said progress. And I want you to think about this if you're a dentist listening. You only need 2 things to make you happy. You got to make progress year over year, just a little bit. It doesn't need to be perfect. But if this year is better than last year, you're good. If your dentistry is better this year than it was last year, you're good. If your team is better this year than last year, you're good. You can't handle no progress. We're just built that way. The second thing you need is predictability. The more you can consistently and predictably improve things, and that's what we're going to talk about today, you're going to be happy. And so this is really, really important that you take this time and pause and say, okay, how do we add more of those 2 elements to our plan here? So.
Yeah, for sure. There's so often that you'll think of, gosh, Where did all the years go? My middle boy, he turns 13 in a couple weeks, Kirk, and I just can't believe it.
Wow.
I look at him and I hug him now and I'm like, who said you could grow? He's reaching things in the cabinet now that he's never reached before. And so you're right, like small progress, absolutely. But the time goes by so fast. So we don't want next year, we don't want 2026 to just be another year that, hey, wow, the time did go by fast. And so while it does go by fast, we need to be intentional with that reflection to say, okay, what did we do this year? What were the things that we accomplished, so that we don't lose sight of our bigger goals, of the things that we said were the most important to us. It's really important to ask yourselves a few questions before the new year begins so that you can plan appropriately for the new year and make the same amount of progress or more progress next year than you made this year. So looking back to see what are some areas of opportunity that we have in the coming year will help so much.
Yeah. So let's get into those questions. These are 4 questions, and I want you to write these down that you can use as a tool. So what's question number 1?
So everyone knows here at ACT, what we focus on the most is being aligned, smart, and healthy. So question number 1, how aligned was my practice this year? What you need to know is that alignment is essential for your practice to be successful, because without that clear vision, without consistent rhythms, your team will drift, you might drift, priorities will get lost, your prioritization could be completely shiny squirrel instead of the thing that you said was the most important to you, and your progress toward your goals will completely stall. So it's important to make sure that you guys were aligned. And as you're asking yourself these questions, it's a good idea to rate yourself and your team on a number scale, because otherwise it's subjective rather than objective to say, how aligned was my practice this year, and do it on a scale from 1 to 10. Did you lead with clear vision? Were you clear? Did you ask your team if you were clear? Did you ask them for feedback on if you were clear? Were you all on the same page? Did you keep those consistent communication rhythms like the team meeting, morning huddle, your check-ins, your right people, right seat scorecard conversations? Did all of those things go according to plan? And rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. That's question number 1.
Yeah. And so it's really important. Now, the thing I would say about alignment, this is so important. We say here internally and externally, misalignment is the root of all evil. When you look at your team or your family or anybody you're working with, the worst thing that can happen is you become misaligned. Because when you become misaligned, the cracks start to happen. It's not only in vision, but it's in conversation, it's in attitude, it's in direction. So we spend the majority of our time here internally at ACT is just getting aligned with leaders. We call it alignment time. We don't call it like meeting time. We call it alignment time. Let's get aligned. And so it's important. Now, another thing I'll just add, because you guys have heard me say this before, alignment and agreement are not the same thing. It's actually good to not agree, and there are a lot of things Barrett and I, who runs our organization, we don't agree on. And that's totally cool and healthy. But I will tell you, we're going to be razor aligned before we start communicating to our leaders and the rest of the team, because any crack in alignment starts to blind everybody. Same thing with Sarah and I. We've been married for 26 years. Like, the challenge happens when we aren't aligned on something. So I think one of the most important things you can do is, like you said, how aligned we are, as a practice. If you have a partner, you have to work extra hard on being aligned and make sure you use the vocabulary or the words, like, we don't have to agree, but let's get aligned on what we're doing financially, what we're doing with the practice, all of that kind of stuff. And then I do love the number thing, because the number thing is big in my family. It's big here too, because people will go, oh, how did it go? I go, great. And they're like, okay, well, what does that even mean? Did we do well on that? So I do it with my kids. I'll often ask them, what'd you think of this vacation? Or what'd you think of this restaurant? And they go, it was great. I go, give me a number. They'll go 6. I'm like, what? I thought it was like a 9. When we have a number, we're getting close to clarity around how you see it and how I see it. And the closer those numbers are, over time, the more aligned you will be. So keep working at alignment. I look if you're an entrepreneur, in your bag of tools or tricks or few things that you would use for the rest of your career, I would put alignment up there as one of the top 5 things you can do. You don't even need to have, I'm a big fan of SMART and healthy. Yes. And we're going to talk about those, but like, you don't even need those. In some cases, if you're just razor aligned, you can find people who are smart. You can find people who, like Heather, that can help you create a healthy culture, but getting aligned is key. Anything you would add before we go to number 2?
Yeah, I think, part of this alignment piece is like, where are we going? And I have so many clients that they know where they're going, but they haven't communicated that clearly to their team.
Right.
And I think that is a huge piece of this is how aligned was my practice this year is how good was I at getting everybody aligned with what's in my head? Did I clearly articulate it? Did I document it well enough that I've allowed my team to meet me where I'm at and that they know exactly where it is that we're all going together? Because if they don't know where you're going, they can't help you get there.
Yeah, 100%. So question number 1 is how aligned was my practice this year? Question number 2 is what?
Number 2, how smart were we? So this encompasses the systems piece, tracking and understanding your data and any KPIs that you wanted to track this year and you wanted to improve, any kind of process or agreement. Aligning on those pieces is super crucial for the SMART piece. Being consistent with those specific systems across the board as a team is important as well and will play into this question. Did we monitor, did we understand and discuss all of that data that we wanted to in the practice? Some of my clients will change up their KPIs that they're tracking on a quarterly basis. Some will keep the same ones all year. Were those the right decisions? Did we have our specific, at ACT, we have a GAPS financial scorecard. Did we use that to help guide in which KPIs we were tracking and following and going through those data points? Did we put some great countermeasures in place? So let's say if we were looking at fluoride percentage and it was kind of low, did we effectively apply countermeasures to improve that percentage and take care of our patients in the way that we want to serve our patients? How well did we systematize the practice? Every single year, we should be either documenting new systems or modifying our existing systems so they reflect on those successful outcomes and one-year goals that we're hoping to achieve. So did we rely on those rather than rely on our people? Were we that systems-driven practice rather than people-dependent? That's what all encompasses the how smart were we? That was a mouthful, Kirk, but you asked.
Yeah, and smart, don't take this the wrong way as an insult, but like as a dental practice, you have to be smart. You just have to be. And I could spend an entire hour on what specifically that means, but I'll give you 2 homework pieces right now. A great number you need to have a good understanding of to be smart is days worked. So if you're a dentist listening, I want you to go to the office right now and figure out how many days did I work. Most dentists, and I would say most of like 95% of dentists have no idea. They have no idea. They go, well, I work 4 days a week. That does not answer the question. I want to know specifically how many days did you work? The other thing they don't understand is what does it constitute a day worked? Well, I went to the office and I saw a big case on a Friday, but I don't normally work Fridays, so that wasn't, the office wasn't really open. No, if you went to the office and did dentistry on any level, or if you just went to the office and you worked for a couple hours, I would even constitute that as a day's worked. Well, we could argue about that, but let's just do patient facing. So if you saw a patient, that's a day's worked. We could argue, but let's start there. According to the ADA, the average dentist works 220 days a year. That's not smart. I'm sorry. We are now seeing dentists that are working 240, 245 days a year, and they're just working to service a false proxy, meaning they're just working to service this gross production number. So a smart practice goes from 220 to 210 and makes more. Then they go from 210 to 200 and makes even more. Then they go from 200 down to 190 and then to 180, and the story continues. And some of our favorites do 170 days a year. And now that is a really smart practice. And I'm here to tell you, you can do it. If you don't think you can do it, you need a coach like Heather or one of our amazing coaches, because they will make you do it. That's function number 1 of a smart practice. Number 2 that we talk about all the time is write-off percentages. Write-off percentages are climbing to a rate that's just not even reasonable. It's irritating almost to hear these write-off rates. But, last year we saw write-off rates that were 42, 43%. Now we're seeing some practices that we coach, and these are really good practices. they are participating with plans in which they're writing off as much as 55%, which makes no sense. Now, I think that's crazy. Prior to COVID, it was completely unreasonable to see people writing off 25%. Now, past COVID, we are now seeing practices that are routinely writing off 33% or more. And let me just say this. When you're writing off 33%, you are working 1 out of every 3 days for free. For free. And I would argue you're not even doing it for free. You're gloving up and seeing patients, and you're doing it for a loss because you got to pay rent. You got to pay all these people. You are servicing people for less than free, and that is not smart. So my point, and Heather, your point is like, we got to be smarter about this. And this is where you got to let your ego go a little bit, and you got to get some help. And somebody saying, hey, listen, let me take a look at this. You know, I was on a call with Miranda yesterday. She was pointing out things I couldn't even see on numbers in a practice. I'm like, where in the world are you? I can already see perio percentage. The point is, there are experts that can look at your practice in less than 5 minutes, say, this is not smart. Let's be smarter about how we utilize our time. Anything you would add before we go to number 3?
Yes, I love that you're pointing out these specific metrics so much, Kirk, and those are near and dear to my heart as well. And I've seen such great, smart success with some clients that recognize those numbers, days worked in the year and otherwise. It's funny. I was able to attend IntelliCon for Dental Intelligence recently, and we were able to have some great conversations about when I was an administrative team member back in 2004, 2005. The only 2 numbers I reported on, guess what they were?
Those 2 numbers?
No. Guess which 2 numbers from 20 years ago?
Oh, from 20 years ago. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just 2 numbers.
Well, I would guess they would be gross production would be one of them, right?
Yes. And?
Gosh, and collections would be probably number 2.
I know. Yeah. And you totally won. Good job. Production and collections. Those were the only 2 numbers that we talked about 20 years ago. Now, the amount of data that's out there is just unreal. Like your wildest dreams, you can come up with 3 dozen numbers that really truly affect your production, your collection, right? Like more than that even. In dental intelligence, you can go down to such nitty gritty and granular numbers. What you have to do with the smart practices is decide, okay, did we focus on the right numbers this year? And were one of those numbers that days worked per year?
Right.
Did I work the right amount of days this year? How was our production per day? What was our annual patient value? All of those things, are those the right numbers? And if we didn't focus on those numbers this year, there are probably some that you should focus on in 2026. So I love that you made that more granular there, Kirk. Like figure out as a practice which ones are the most important to you. And we do this amazing thing on our podcast called Metric Mondays, where you can learn more about those specific metrics. And there's some that really play a huge role in those bigger numbers like production and collection.
Yeah, so well said. And I could piggyback on that, but I won't for the benefit of our listener. But it's not just limited to numbers. Some of the smart decisions you make are around vision questions regarding your time. Being like, and this is my opinion, but seeing patients after 5 o'clock is silly. It's just stupid. I don't know, I know why people do it, but it's counterproductive. And we have so many people that we coach that go, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, don't. And so they'll go to 4 days a week, 7 to 3 without a lunch, or they'll go 8 to 4. The cool thing is you can pick, and their production skyrockets. Their net production skyrockets, I should say. Their collections actually skyrockets. They make more money. They enjoy what they do. That is a smart decision. And so when they're also expanding, they expand from a position of strength, meaning they have too many patients. They can see how this will monetize and support their vision, not just expand in hopes of doing it. So you got to be smart in business on that respect. So that's question number 2. How smart were we? What's question number 3, Heather?
Question number 3, how healthy is our culture?
Ooh.
Like talking about this year. And again, like it's so subjective unless you make it objective. So definitely use a number as we just come off talking about data. Rate yourself and your practice on a scale from 1 to 10. How healthy was our culture this year? How did we do in 2025 in how it relates to, were we trusting each other? How were our core values showing up? Were they in fact alive and well? Did we lean into productive, healthy conflict to be sure that we're aligned. We don't have to agree, but to be sure that we're aligned, having that healthy conflict is so crucial. Making sure that our patients feel and know the difference. And making sure that we are holding each other accountable to the things that we said were important to us, to our systems. It's interesting, Kirk, as I'm saying all this, like they're all related in some way, right?
Right.
But when you can, it's that feeling, which is why it can be so subjective, but putting a number to that to say, objectively this year, I felt like our culture was this. And your team might disagree with you. It'd be really great to ask your team the same question. How healthy was our culture this year on a scale from 1 to 10? 10 being the most amazing our culture was all year long. But that's really where it comes from. Those ideas of, did we communicate well with each other with respect? Do we have all the right people in the right seats? Were we able to have really great, productive, right people, right seats, scorecard conversations? All of those pieces are going to play into this specific question. What would you add, Kirk?
Yeah, this is another dangerous one for me because I love this one. And healthy culture, people come up with very subjective, definitions for that. Just like you said, we actually have a practice health score that we use with our clients. And you can see that, if you want to email us, kirk@actdental.com, I can send you the practice health score. And my hypothesis on this, which finds itself to be true in almost 90% of the cases, is when your practice health score is accurate and it's measured at the beginning. Let's say it's a 3.5 out of 10 and it goes from a 3.5 to a 7. I can already tell you that your profit's going to go up. Every single thing is going to go up in the direction you want it to because you have a healthy culture, meaning you have the right people on the right seats. You've got core values that are established. People are all in on your vision for the practice. And so it's critically important. Here at ACT, we implemented the same thing internally. We use a different term for it. It's called Rockefeller Habits. And we make sure that our team fills that out with specific data points for each one of those things that are important to us. And at one point, when ACT was at its worst, I got a 3.7 out of 10. That was fresh in and out of COVID. Like, it was not a fun place to be, mostly because of the leader, which is me. And then we made a decision to get extremely aligned, really lean into our core values, and quarter over quarter, it went from 3.7 to 5 to 7 to 8, and then our company took off after that. And my number one game now, and our team is very well aware of this, is like the ASH culture, aligned, smart, and healthy is our number one priority and will be. For as long as I'm here, like that's going to be the number one thing, to build a team that is aligned, smart, and healthy. And those things are the most important. And all of the other accoutrements or fun things that come as a result, those are the byproducts, and I could go on, but that's what I would say about a healthy culture is once you make a commitment to saying to yourself, I'm going to build a culture of people that behave the right way, which is our core values, with the right people in the right seats, and we stay committed to that, everything changes. You spend 30% of your life at work. Why wouldn't you want it to be an amazing place to work? Right, Heather?
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting. You say that a lot, Kirk, is that we spend 30% of our life at work. We spend more. Some of you listening spend more than 30% of your life at work. You've got to make it good. I have the amazing privilege of working on the culture committee here at ACT, and I get to work very closely with our director of people and culture, Jenny Poulos. And one thing that we've talked a lot about this quarter, because you're right, Kirk, we take this very seriously here, is what results happen when our culture is healthy. And one of the things that Jenny brought up that I completely agree with, and it's one of the questions on the practice health score, is that there's like zero turnover. Nobody leaves. And listen, I have some clients right now that they have pregnant team members that are choosing to be stay-at-home moms once they have their baby. They've got, husbands that have been relocated for work that they leave, and they're sad to leave because they don't want to leave that amazing culture, right? Like, I'm not talking about that kind of turnover. But when you have team members stay, and when they also want to refer people to work in the practice,
Right.
That's one of the questions on there is that, hey, would you refer someone to come work here? And when that number's high, awesome, we are doing something right here. So I love that you're willing to share that practice health score with our community, because it has changed so many of my clients' practices for the better.
Yeah, totally agree. So question number 3 in reflection is, how healthy is our culture? And again, put numbers to it. If you don't have an ability to do that, we have a practice health score we're happy to share with you. So Heather, what's question number 4?
Okay, so question number 4, what will we start, stop, or continue next year? Many of our current pro clients know what the start, stop, continue reflection exercise looks like. And what I love so much about this activity is that you could apply it to anything. In this particular instance, you're going to apply it to 2025, and that aligns smart and healthy piece. So how can we be intentional about creating more freedom and fulfillment in the coming year? What is it that we want to start doing that we weren't able to start doing in 2025? What worked well that we should double down on and continue to do and see in the coming year? Sometimes if we just pour more energy into things that are working, the other things will follow. And then what do we need to stop doing so that we can see more success in those specific segments of aligned, smart, and healthy? Because there's plenty of bad habits, myself included. I'm totally guilty of doing some not so great things. Scheduling your time, specifically, I want to say this one because I've got a lot of clients that are struggling with this right now, and I know that you do too. As a clinician listening, is to block time. So at least start blocking time. Don't say, oh, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Block some admin time. We talk about this a lot at ACT as well, is that as a dentist owner, you have 3 hats. You wear 3 hats. You're a dentist, an entrepreneur, and a leader. So I would definitely pull that into your reflection of, hey, how do I want next year to look different? And if you felt like you struggled to wear the entrepreneur and the leader hats, create more time for that.
Yeah, totally agree. And this is an important one that I didn't do early in my career. I'm going to encourage you to do it, but the starting and stopping is so important every single year. You know, in order to get something going, you got to say yes to a lot, but you eventually have to move away from that word and start using the word no. So my encouragement to you is to create a no list. Things I'm going to say no to. I'm not going to do that. And they might include procedures. They might include behavior. They might include certain hours. I'm just not going to see people after this time because I'm getting too old for this, you know? And it's powerful when you can stop doing some of these things. So create a no list and start focusing on the few things that move the needle instead of the many that don't. So good. So Heather, give us some final takeaways on how to do this, year-end reflection 4-question process.
For sure. So what I would do is I would definitely start with thinking of all the amazing things that you and your team were able to accomplish this year. Like we talked about, Kirk, the progress. We always say slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Even if I just had a client that revamped their core values because they let them bake, and oh my gosh, for me, that's my favorite thing that they did this year. I loved it. It was so emotional for a reason, for a really good reason, and incredibly impactful and powerful for their team. Just that alone, even though this year might have been a struggle year, can help you to see that, hey, we accomplished something really awesome this year. The book, The Gap and the Gain by Dan Silva, I love it, love it, love it. You should read it if you haven't yet or listened to it. It's a really quick listen. But when you focus on those wins and see how far you've come, then all of the areas of opportunity aren't quite as daunting. But when you sit down and you ask yourself these 4 questions and give yourself that data point and rate where you were, then it gives you that focus and intention and confidence going into 2026. So make sure that you're intentional with blocking your calendar and giving yourself some time to reflect on this past year as a dentist practice owner. And then if you do have that healthy culture, I would pull your team into it as well. Thank your team and appreciate your team for the progress that you've made this year, because dentistry is not a solo sport. Your team had a hand in helping you to get where you are right now, and then involve them in the process of planning for next year. They might be able to really help you populate your start, stop, continue list for 2026. So include them in the process.
Yeah, this is so great, Heather. I love this. And if you're a dentist listening, you have 10 team members or even 5 or maybe even 50. I would encourage you to share this podcast with them and write out these 4 questions and do a sliding scale, maybe even something simple from 0 to 10. How aligned are we as a team? How smart are we as a team? How healthy is our culture? What should we stop, start, or continue next year? It's a great way to get them involved, because when they can weigh in on the future they can buy in. So our goal with this podcast, as all of them are, is to give you something useful. Some of you are thinking like, how do I end this year well? And how do I have next year be better? Start with these 4 questions. And if you tried everything and it's just not working, well, then you need a coach. You need a great coach like Heather who will make you do this stuff. You don't have time to think about any. This is all we do. So if you need help, we're here to help you. Also, I'm going to encourage you guys to go back and check out some of the resources we mentioned in the Best Practices Association. We have the Practice Health Score back there. You can actually download it, give it out to your team members. It has descriptions for each one of them and a sliding scale. You can put all of the numbers together and you can have a composite score on how healthy your practice is. There's another guide that we have back there called the Chief Reminding Officer. That's my main job here, is just to repeat the things over and over and over again that are so important, because we need to hear that from a leader. And if you're thinking about how to be smarter, all those numbers that we mentioned, we actually have a financial gaps at a glance tool back in the Best Practices Association. That's what we do back here. This is all we do. So we have tons and tons of resources. You can go back and you can download the app and you get started right away. And we also have a resource back there called How to Bring Your Core Values Alive. If you've never done that work, I'm encouraging you to do that work. There's videos that can help you every step of the way. Our job is to help you create a better practice and a better life. And I hope we're doing that. So you can also reach out to Courtney on our team. She's our lead therapist here. If you just want somebody to talk to and you're not sure where to start with Courtney. So hope you guys enjoy that. Heather, thank you so much for being on. I always appreciate you.
Thank you, Kirk.
Yeah, stick around when we say goodbye to everybody else. But thank you guys for listening. With over 900 episodes and over 100,000 unique listeners, I'm just so crazy grateful that you're listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed today, do us a favor, hit the share button and share it with your friends, because when you share it with your friends, we get to help other people like you. We love dentistry so much. We're going to keep bringing it. So until we see you guys next time, or you hear from us next time, keep watching or keep listening to the Best Practices Show. You guys enjoy your day.